Yo, 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 what's up, everyone? This is Aaron Nance with,
Dr. Jeffrey Foster.
and we are Disturbing the Peace. Here we talk about critical issues related to urban education for minoritized and marginalized students within the K-12 educational landscape.
Yeah.
So before we get started, as you guys know, if you follow us, we always do our affirmations. I do not remember who did them the last time, but I guess I'll say one and then you say one.
Okay.
Okay. The affirmation I'm going to use today is that I am worthy. I am worthy in spite of what somebody else may think. I am worthy in spite of what somebody may say. I am worthy in spite of some actions that some may say are justifiable against you. No matter what, you are worthy.
I was gonna say that too.
No, you wasn't.
I was.
For real?
But I'll just use an adjective.
Okay.
I am valuable.
Valuable, yes.
I am valuable,
Yes.
despite what he says, what she says,
Right. What they say.
what they say.
And they say a lot.
They do. They do. Despite their own insecurities
Yes.
and jealousy and whatever they're projecting onto you,
Right.
you are still valuable.
You are valuable. You
I
are worthy.
am valuable.
We are valuable.
I am worthy.
We
are worthy.
Yes.
Don't forget it.
You are enough.
Enough.
You are enough for
More
you.
than enough.
More. You are enough.
You are a conqueror.
And I feel like that whenever, as an adult, it's hard to lose hope. It's hard to lose track. It's hard to lose your vision on like your goals, your purpose, what's meant to be aligned or the misalignment of what was. So these affirmations definitely helped me even as a 34-year-old black male. And I'm sure Dr. Foster, it helps you as well.
Yeah.
Right?
It does. I have to tell myself that oftentimes. I got to boost myself up. I got
A
to
lot.
give
Yep.
myself a pep talk.
Yep.
And I have amazing people in my life
Yeah.
too that can do that. Like my friend right here, Aaron. And then also, being a part of Profound. Shout out to Profound Gentlemen.
Woo-woo.
And being a part of that group where you have that camaraderie of there's so many
Excellence.
excellence. There's the black male educators coming together.
Yeah.
And having a podcast like this where we get to talk about things that affect us in a post-realistic way and frame, I think is quintessential.
I agree.
Yeah.
And before we get into our discussion on post-realism structure, we always do this as well. I want you to give me one thing that you are proud of that you have accomplished within the month. And give me one thing like, okay, this is something that not you need to improve on, but more so if you could frame it your way, this is how you would do it.
For the past month, something I'm proud of. Sometimes we focus so much on the negatives, we don't think
Focus
about
on
the positives.
Yeah.
I'm proud of the fact that. Well, I'm going to have to say something. An area of growth for me. It's what I have a situation that's both.
Okay.
And we express our vulnerability, and I was in a situation with a specific individual, a specific leader, where I felt like she was transferring a lot of
Transgression.
yeah, a lot of. She had a lot of aggression. She was anxious. She had a lot of mixed emotions. There was a lot going on with her, but she decided to uh, transfer that onto me, and that really affected me. And she yelled at me.
Mm.
And the way that she yelled at me, no one's ever yelled at me like that other than my own mom and my dad a couple of times. And I was shook. And then, the first thing I wanted to do is to go off. And people who know me know that it takes a lot for me to go off and get angry. But I was feeling so anxious. And there was someone in the room, that a high level person that I am partnering with and working with. And I was thinking in my head, I said, Jeffrey, handle this the right way. And I'm proud of the fact that I stood up for myself and I said I didn't do anything. Because she said, you did this, you did that, you're the reason. And I was like, wait a minute, I didn't do anything. And I'm proud of myself for speaking up for myself. Because, that's something that's something I wouldn't have done 5 years ago. I would have been upset and been very passive aggressive afterwards.
And maybe you would have transferred your anger to someone else.
To someone else, yes.
So therefore, it perpetuates the cycle that continues within our community.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very deep, and we're gonna come back to that, because that is a part of the post-realism framework. But we're gonna come back to your story and your.
I'm not done yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just have to talk about the area of growth.
Oh, my bad. I thought you did, because you said there was two parts. You told the story.
The good.
You told it. No, you said, okay, this person, what you experienced, and then you was able to speak up for yourself.
Oh, I thought we were going to say something good that we're proud of and something that we need to grow.
Oh, I thought that was something you was proud of, because you was.
It is. I'm proud of it, but I got to show my area of growth.
Okay.
There's still some area of growth too.
My bad.
So, the area for growth for me, and I'm gonna be quick with this, is in this same situation is, I wish I would have kept my cool and said to her, I will not speak to you while we're in this manner that you are speaking with me
in this tone.
Yeah. Please do not yell at me. Like, set boundaries. I wish I could have done that, but that's something I'm working on, and that's an area for growth. Yeah.
Kudos to you, Dr. Foster.
Thank you.
If you are an educator, there are certain signs that we would do to show, like, congratulations. So this is one of them.
Jazz hands,
snaps.
Yes.
So there are many ways. So we're gonna do jazz hands for you, Dr. Foster. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. For me, this week it really just goes back to the affirmations. I'm proud to know that I am enough.
Yes.
Even if nobody else thinks I am, even if my job doesn't value that, even if people in my life doesn't know that about me, I know that for myself. In order to love someone, you have to love yourself first. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that I am steadfast in what I believe in, and I am a proud advocate of that. And those who know me know that no matter what circle I'm in, I'm always going to advocate for myself first before I advocate for others, because I have to love me. I have to be okay with me before I can help somebody else. I will also say that's probably an area of growth as well, because I am so proactive or advocate for myself, and that is something I believe in. It's kind of like, it can be very militant in a way, depending on who you speak into, and it could come off the wrong way. But if it comes off the wrong way, then that's nothing dealing with me. That's something dealing with that individual person. But I guess a year growth of me is just really trying to understand and meet people where they are, which is very difficult for me. I am a very type A personality type of person. And so when it comes to my job, I like things a certain way. especially if my name is attached.
Mm-hmm.
But I have learned, even with Dr. Foster now, when writing papers or with anything, I have learned to value more of his input instead of just shutting it down. So that's what I mean by area of growth. And I feel like I have came a long way,
Mm-hmm.
but I know that there's still some work for me to be done. And another thing is that I don't always have to interject my opinion. And then I have learned to, when talking to anyone, okay, do you want me to listen or you want me to respond? Like, what do you want from me out of this conversation? How can I help you be better in this conversation? Like, what do you need from me during this conversation?
That's a really good skill to have. Like, everybody needs to work on that.
Yeah, I believe so.
Being an active listener, but are you listening to be
critical?
an ear? Yeah. Or are you being critical?
Right.
Are you, especially if you're solution oriented? Both of us are solution oriented. So if you're gonna say something to us, we already gonna be thinking about solutions.
Have a response, right?
Then you don't even want that.
Right. Exactly. Like, so that's what I mean. Like, just really conversing, really figuring out. And I'll be honest and say again, you know, therapy really helped me to debunk some of the things that I was doing before, and it really helped me to understand my narrative so I can better understand others. So I will also say, like, going to therapy really helped me with that, with understanding people not as I understand them, but as I see them.
Being able to see, I wish so many times that I could step outside of my body and see. And just be an outsider looking.
It's so difficult, isn't it? Yeah, it's so difficult. It's so difficult. But all right, now we're about to.
Well. We're gonna give some kudos to you. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do 2 claps, 2 claps.
All right.
So 2 claps, 2 claps, 2 claps, 2 claps. So 2 claps for Mr. Nance right here.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Dr. Foster.
That's a good tactic to use when you have students that they ain't ready to be, cheering and doing all this stuff and acting crazy. If you got to move on, you just say 2 claps.
I like
That's
that.
it. Mm-hmm.
I like that. I'm going to incorporate that. Even when I do my professional developments, I'm going to incorporate that.
I love that.
I like that. Thank you. And again, we have to celebrate each other, man. Mm-hmm. If nobody else celebrates you, want to celebrate yourself, but also find individual people within your circle, no matter what circle you in, who's going to be your cheerleader, who's going to celebrate you. But also be honest, too. Now, we don't need a yes man, but it's somebody who's going to be your cheerleader, but also give you
constructive.
I wouldn't even say constructive feedback, because that could also be negative. But who's always going to see you for who you are.
Yeah, and keep it real.
And keep it real, yeah. Yeah. All right, so now we're about to hop into this podcast. Again, it is focused on post-realism and post-realistic structures within our society. So that is the topic for, is that fair to say?
Yeah.
That's the topic for our conversation?
Yeah.
All right, so post-realism, what is it? Why does it exist?
Yeah.
What does it do? Why is it important? Why is it critical? Like, when Dr. Foster and I started thinking about this framework, these are all the things we thought about, right? And there are so many different synonyms to post-realism, like social stratifications. What could be some other synonyms, Dr. Foster, you think?
Well,
cultural hegemony.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say synonyms because there's nothing.
I mean, that's true.
Nothing like
that's true.
Educational post-realism.
That is true.
However,
you're right.
This framework is so vague. I mean, it's not vague, but it's so vast that a lot of things fit within that umbrella.
Yep.
And so that's social stratifications fit up in there.
Yep.
Cultural hegemony
it fits up in there.
Culturally responsiveness, culturally sustaining pedagogies. Yep.
Keep going, bro.
The
dominant narratives. The dominant cultures.
I dare to say W.E.B. Du Bois' double consciousness in there. Critical literacy.
Critical race theory.
Yes. Critical race structuralism.
Critical race structuralism. All of those things fit into post-realism. So let's do a deep dive. So what is post-realism?
Yeah.
What is it? So Post-realism, that's what would you like to go? And then I can piggyback or veggie back off of you? Or
I'm a veggie back off of you.
okay. So post-realism is this to deposit a cultural and relevant knowledge about the social stratifications that continue to marginalize our youth in our society. So in essence, what does that mean? If it marginalizes youth in our society, so who's most affected by the society? Our youth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's for youth, no matter what youth you identify as, to take control of these structures and to navigate these structures from a critical standpoint, from a critical perspective.
Yes.
So it's no longer saying, hey, not only am I going to read this textbook, now I'm going to decontextualize what this textbook mean as it relates to my post-realistic structure. So I can have an understanding of the society that I will be in a couple of years when I graduate. So it is really centering the ideologies from adolescent stage and conceiving those ideologies into adulthood. The more that you know, the more that they are aware. If they are aware, then they can be conscious of their decisions in society once they know how society operates.
Yes, I love that. And to add on to that, I believe that educational post-realism also can start as early as kindergarten.
It can.
I mean, even before then, you're participating in critical literacy. You're encouraging. You want to start as early as possible to be able to have the opportunity to teach these future globalized citizens to be advocates for themselves and others, to participate in education and understanding and development and critical, having a critical lens through a lens of oppression, of an oppressed population, being able to understand what privileges you have, and how does your privilege may oppress another population, like all of that, like understanding society in the world, the world around you in a globalized, understanding a globalized society and being a good, healthy, well-rounded citizen that knows who you are and where you came from and where you're headed and who you're taking with you to support as you move towards being a positive globalized citizen within this world.
Exactly, and there's a lot. There's a lot you said in there, but all of it is relevant. All of it is important. So the framework that we created is called IDEA. It stands for identity. Identity discover. Thank you. Identity, discover, elevate, and advocate. Identity, discover, elevate, and advocate. Identity is important. As a matter of fact,
identifying and / identity.
Yes. I was listening to a song earlier. As a matter of fact, when you called me on my way to work, I was listening to a song, and I love hip hop. I am not a hip hop scholar yet. I am becoming a hip hop scholar.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, there are 2 papers. Is it 2? Yeah. Oh yeah.
It might be 3. We have written so many papers.
There are 2 papers that we have. One is waiting on a publication date, but it is My Skin is My Sin. An in-depth analysis of hip hop in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s.
That was a good paper.
And then we have another one. It's called it's called the Dear Mama, the Residual Impact of Tupac Hypermasculinity. Something
within
like
the 21st century.
Within the 21st century. It's something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, so I'm not a hip hop scholar yet, but I'm becoming a hip hop scholar. And so I was listening to your boy Nas.
Oh yeah.
I was listening to Nas, and there's a song that he has called Define Us by Name. And it's very interesting from that perspective when we talk about identity or identifying. We was not identified by name. We was identified by the owners of those who were enslaved.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, Phyllis Wheatley was the first black woman to publish a book, but her name came from her slave owners.
Mm.
And so a lot of times that we're not identified how we are seen,
Yeah.
and which is very important. So from a post-realistic structure, how do you choose to identify yourself?
Yeah.
Don't let these Eurocentric ideologies identify who you are. You have to identify that. And once you identify, I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Once you identify who you are, then that's who you will become.
Yeah. To add on to that, with the identify piece is identifying what the issue is. What is the root cause? Why did that situation? Why was Phyllis Wheatley not identified by who she is and where she came from? That is the deep root of being able to use identity and identification before you walk up into a classroom with marginalized and minoritized students. You need to be able to identify
who they are,
and who you are.
That's a good point. Not by race, not by ethnicity, but by the true moral character of that individual, of that individual child, of that individual person,
and their background too.
In their background, a lot of times, some teachers, not all, do not view students as people. So if I am in a classroom and I challenge, not question, or I ask for further clarifications, then I am sent to the principal office because I am identified by my race, not by my character or not by my background.
That happens every day.
Yeah.
Because they have preconceived notions, and if we're able to identify microaggressions or preconceived notions and identify the concept of oppression and how you may be bringing that oppression into your classroom,
that bias.
Then once you have that identification,
then you'll be more aware of the biases that
you may have.
The teacher may have, exactly.
Because everybody has implicit biases.
And then something I said in my TED Talk at the conclusion is W.B. Du Bois has stated that students learn from what you are, not what you teach. Students have the best discernment.
Oh, yes, they do.
Students know when they are loved and they know when they aren't liked. And so when you try to get a student to comply with not your rules, your expectations, or the guidelines that that student does not like you because that teacher has not built a relationship with that student.
Yeah.
And then that goes to elevate, which is the second component in this framework. Third, sorry. It is the third. So discover is the second component in the framework.
Because we actually ended up talking about discover because we delved into discovery already. Because you got to discover. Once you identify, you discover
that child.
Yeah.
Right.
You discover what that child background is. You participate.
I'm gonna challenge, how do teachers discover that? If teachers come in and they identify students, but let me go back. If the teacher has an implicit bias and preconceived notions of the student before they even see the student, how can they discover their abilities?
That's big. And
how?
And that's why you got to identify. And when you identify yourself, being an identifier of yourself and being an identifier of others, in order to participate in this identification, you're going to have to participate in some self-reflection. In order to participate in some self-reflection, you're going to need some guidance. In order to get guidance, you need to probably have some professional development and some support to help scaffold you, because we are in a Eurocentric, westernized society. Yeah. So oftentimes people are blind. So we need people out there, champions that can help these blind people see.
I agree. And one thing that you brought up, which reminds me, is self-efficacy. is really huge. And once you realize, okay, I know that I wasn't the best. I wasn't the best person today. I know I did not present my best self. So what can I do now to champion for tomorrow? You know, so once we have those identifier pieces, and once you have discovered who you are, then you can discover your children. But it does not start on the first day of school. It starts before the students come into the classroom. You have to identify and you have to discover who you are, as you said, but also how do you show up best for your students.
Yes, and the goal is for this framework to be utilized at least, at minimal, at college when they are learning to be teachers.
Right.
They need to go through this process before they get licensed to be a teacher.
I agree.
Well, and then, you know, nowadays, people are not having to be licensed or even have a bachelor's degree to be a teacher. This is a side note, a friend of mine, I didn't tell you this, showed me a position that was posted for a teacher for $17 an hour, and it said you just have to have an associate's degree.
The state of our education. The state of our education.
Yeah.
And that goes to the third component in our framework,
Yes.
which is elevate. How do we elevate our students? Let me go back. How do we elevate ourselves? How? What can we do as educators to elevate ourselves, to elevate our students' critical consciousness?
Yes.
How do we teach students to be global citizens in a 21st century society? I'm sorry.
Go ahead, break it down.
How do we do that, as you said earlier, in this westernized, Eurocentric culture? How do we do that? How do we navigate through the structural racism of this system that was not meant for us in the first place? How? With the laws and the regulations that discourage divisive rhetoric that is pertinent to the success of marginalized students, how do we navigate that from a political and socio-cultural point of view?
You brought a lot of things to the table. Can I? I'm not going to be solution oriented like we said we were, but I do want to say something did come to mind earlier in what you were saying about elevating, and how you said, how do we elevate ourselves? But guess what? When we teach social emotional learning competencies to our students, we can take those on to ourselves, and growth mindset is important. Like you said, reflection. You're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. You have to reflect, and having a growth mindset is so important when you're elevating yourself. Because and there's this book that I read years ago. It's called Mindset. Carol Dweck, and she's the one that did all this research on the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. You know, fixed mindset is, oh, this is how I am. I'm never going to change. Things are never going to change. Growth mindset says, this is where I am right now, but this is not where I'm going to stay. I had like you said earlier, I had a bad day. I didn't do this right.
Right.
But guess what? There's a tomorrow.
Right.
If the universe or God is willing, there's a tomorrow.
Right.
And so and then another thing I just want to say real quick with like elevating yourself is vulnerability. The Brene Brown has done a lot of research on vulnerability and authenticity, and I want to recommend a book to everybody. I've read this book twice. I read this book once when I was after my first year of teaching, because Lord knows your first year of teaching is trying. But I read it again a couple of years later, and it's called the gift of imperfection.
Mm.
And us as black males, I know that growing up in a post-realistic society, we're always probably hard on ourselves. Like, I'm a perfectionist when it comes to certain things, and I know you are as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the gift of imperfection, it's a gift. The being able to be authentic and express your vulnerability to a certain extent works very well. Now, there has been research out there that shows that the book is not as culturally responsive because us as African Americans, we can't different. Always show our vulnerability, express our vulnerability. So you have to have a mix, in the middle. Well, anyways, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. I was going on and on about that one little piece, but you said so much.
No, it's fine, and I agree. Like, along with vulnerability, we have to practice empathy. Mm. A lot of times within the black community, we're it's funny. I was having this conversation the other day. We are taught, from I'm not anyone to taught. We are conditioned from a very young age to think or act a certain way, especially black men. Mm-hmm. Black fathers or black role models say, "Hey, go play basketball," or "You need to go play football," or "Go play baseball," or "Go be a boy." Go be a boy, but it's unorthodox for a boy to play with a doll or for a boy to do all these other things because we have been conditioned to think and act a certain way. Therefore, as black men now, as adults, we're not able, some of us are not able to practice empathy as much because we are taught to be disciplinarians in our school system.
Yeah.
We are taught to be ABAs. We are taught to be behavior technicians. So
our coaches,
coaches, PE teachers,
which are amazing titles and jobs,
but the problem is that once we are relied on to participate in every facet of educational programs. Mm-hmm. We are taught that because there's a black kid or brown kid who does not listen because I am black, then I should be able to solve that problem, which is very stereotypical behavior. Because I am black and this kid is black, what makes you think that I am qualified to solve this kid's problem? Now, on a larger scale, that is somewhat true. Like research that says that if a black student has a black teacher about third grade, they will most likely go to high school and graduate.
Yeah.
So there's
4 times. Is it what?
Three times.
3 or 4 times.
3 times likely. So that is true. However, we shouldn't be always seen as the disciplinarians. We should not always be seen as the coaches. We should not always be seen that way. But a lot of times we are given that title without even asking for it.
Yeah. Like, even if that's not a part of your personality.
Right.
And that's why that black boy joy thing that got popular not too many years ago, that was important to see that, there is black boy joy. And us as black males, we can be vulnerable.
Right.
We can
be empathetic,
and we can be happy, and we can smile.
Right.
We can laugh.
It's okay.
Uh-huh.
It's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. We don't have to practice what society has called this hyper masculinity. I would even argue that's probably why most black men in their younger 20s and 30s are in the penal system. Mm-hmm. Because they wasn't taught to practice that empathy. They wasn't taught to smile. They wasn't taught to practice or express their vulnerability. In the other sense, they were taught, if you step on my shoes, we're going to have some issues. You know how it was back in middle school? You got some clean pair of Air Force Ones.
Those white Air Force Ones.
You know how it was? Somebody step on the things, you get a little scuff.
Or you
ready to...
They used to, people used to have put socks in.
Oh, I used to do that.
So it don't crease.
I used to do that, yeah.
Well,
you know how it is. Somebody step on those, you ready to go toe to toe.
Yeah. Yeah, but I can honestly say my dad was not that guy. My dad was not that person. His friends were that, and some cousins, they were like that. They would beat their sons, and they would tell my dad, "You need to beat him so he can man up and things
whatever
like
that
that.
means. Whatever that means.
Yeah, and but I am appreciative that my dad was not like that. Yes, to add on to that, I do appreciate that my dad was not that type of dad. I wouldn't have done well with a dad like that myself. Even though my dad was big into sports and things like that, but what probably may have helped him is how he was raised, and his mom. That family, it just was different, raised differently than being moving away from poverty and slavery and all of that. But my grandmother, his mom had she was very open-minded, very brilliant, and that definitely transferred over to him. His dad died when he was 8 years old.
Wow.
And so he did have a stepdad. Didn't get along with stepdad too much. Then another stepdad, who I consider my grandfather, because he was married to my grandmother a couple of years before I was born.
Right.
But
wow.
anyways. But long story short, there are alternatives, but the narrative is that we have to grow as black men raising children, and we want to be the protectors, and then white men. There's research out there that shows that white men, they don't have to be as aggressive because they've been the dominant ones in the westernized society. Isn't that interesting?
It really is. And so something came to my mind that my mentor told me a couple of months ago. When I walk in the room, you see me. I don't have to announce who I am. I don't have to be hyper masculine. When I walk in the room, you know who I am. You see me for who I am. I don't have to say a word, and then my presence will be known.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the same thing with black men. You don't have to announce that you are a black man to be a black man.
Yeah. They see you a mile away.
They see you a mile away. So let's encourage that for our youth, because that is very important. And we're going to wrap up here soon. So our last one in our framework is advocate. So far we have identity, discover, elevate, and advocate. And advocate, this is my niche right here. I'm an advocate for myself. I'm an advocate for my program. I'm an advocate for anything that deals with education. And I have been in conversations with very powerful people, and I have not backed down from my point of view because, again, I am my research. No one can tell me about my research but me. When I work in a room full of educators, I know my research. Nobody has to tell me or give me accolades or praise me or validate me. No, I'm validating you. Let's do that. I'm validating you. And so when it comes to advocate, you cannot be afraid to advocate for what belongs to you. And advocating looks different to different type of people, right? My advocacy extends beyond because of the position that I'm in. But not only am I advocating at the higher educational level, well, I am, but I'm advocating for all students, not just the students here at the school I'm at, but for all students who deserves educational attainment, who deserves a future. As Reedy Pearson says, every child deserves a champion. So I'm here championing for these different students who need representation.
Yes, I love that. And as it relates to education and teaching, it is very important that once a teacher has identified critical issues and root causes and who they are and who their children are, and then they discover a lot of things about themselves and others, and then they have elevated themselves, their thinking, who they are, and elevated the people, the children that they are responsible for, and then they advocate. And once they and to advocate for children, you have to, like, I just feel like I have a quick situation that I have to share with y'all. When I was I taught second grade for 1 year, and there was this teacher. She happened to be a white female, and a good chunk of her students were from the Latinx community. And it was a time where Donald Trump was like, they were just trying to, they did a lot of things where the DACA and all of that, trying to get rid of Latinos or Latinx people out of the country. A lot of the students were concerned, and they was like, I remember they're saying to their teacher, I'm scared. And she said, get in the line. I don't have time for this. And I was so disrespectful. That teacher happened to be a Republican, and she voted for Donald Trump, and she supported Donald Trump. But I'm like, these kids, they're scared. You don't care. You can't advocate for them. So I can't believe I'm saying this, but you don't need to be teaching them. I said it.
You said it like you surprised.
I mean, sometimes when things are right in your face, you get shooketh.
I mean, yeah, but that's the society that we live in, and I agree. Now, one thing I always say is that I never blame anyone for their stance. I never blame anyone for where they are. But the narrative, I would challenge you on in the things that you are saying. Mm-hmm. Again, not based on what you believe in, but how it shapes the perspectives of our youth is what I would challenge you on. And I don't care how someone chooses to affiliate themselves. Just make sure in the classroom that you are doing your due diligence when it comes to these children.
Yeah, and that's something we really need to reflect on. How do you participate in post-realism in the IDEA framework if you don't believe?
Have a skewed vision.
If you're a believer of Eurocentrism and white supremacy, how do you adopt IDEA?
And I think it goes back to the growth mindset that you mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. So I agree that we should teach from a cultural or a post-realistic lens. And the challenge is that, like you said, how do you do that when some ideas and ideologies may be a little different? Mm-hmm. But I think it goes back to the growth mindset of teachers. I think it goes back to the willingness to participate and the urge to get better. That I can work with. But I agree, if someone does not believe in the post-realistic views or structures, then you're right. Maybe they need to reevaluate themselves mm-hmm. to see how they could position themselves mentally and physically to support these students who need critical hands-on support.
Yeah. They need and they deserve it.
And they deserve it.
And equitable education.
Yeah, they deserve equitable education. So I want you guys to think, how can you use the IDA approach in your classroom? How can you identify students and yourselves? How can you discover their talents and abilities? As a matter of fact, I wrote a paper about Black students and their geniuses. Mm-hmm. I forget the title of it because it's been a while since I've written a paper, but if you look up Aaron Nance and black geniuses or something like that, it should come up. But I wrote a paper that really talks about Black students being geniuses in education, students. But a lot of times we overlook that because they may exhibit some form of behavior to make you think they're not geniuses. For instance, they may tap on a desk, or I know my thing was I would brush my hair in class, or they may do something where it annoys the teacher, but just know that student is a genius. So how do we discover students' geniuses within our classrooms?
Mm-hmm.
How can we elevate their critical consciousness? And furthermore, how can we advocate for them?
Yeah, I love that. And using that, if you use that IDEA approach, you know the students,
Yep.
and you know their families, their
Yep.
background, and where
Everything.
they come from,
Yep.
and you'll be able to make informed decisions, and you'll know, oh,
How to
this
best.
is your genius right here.
Yep. And
Yeah.
you better know how to serve that student in the long run.
Yes.
Please check out the TED Talk on post-realistic structures for marginalized students. Again, that is on YouTube.
And it'll be a link will be below in the comment section if you want to check it out.
Yes, and then please continue to support us, subscribe to our podcast. Yo, this is a time where we need all hands on deck. It's getting more critical each day. Education is definitely changing. Please get involved in the conversation, like, comment, subscribe, and we can do anything to help. We definitely will.
Yep.
All right. So until next time, this is Aaron Nance with
Dr. Jeffrey Foster.
and thank you for watching, joining, tuning in, and most of all, we've got to do our closing affirmation.
Okay. We did our opening.
Yeah, we've got to do our closing because we always open one, then we close with one.
Okay.
Right? So I'm going to suggest that for our closing affirmation, we can just say, be proud of yourselves. Be proud of yourselves. You may not be where you are. You may not be where you want to be, but be proud of where you come from. Because I'm proud of you. And I know Dr. Foster.
I'm very proud.
Yeah.
So be proud and
proud.
celebrate.
Celebrate yourselves. Until next time, this is Aaron Nance with
Dr. Jeffrey Foster.
And we are disturbing the peace. Peace out, y'all.